I wanted to show some examples of previous student work for the portrait recreation part of Project 3. So these are all examples of what the artist made on the left and what the student did as the recreation on the right. And I think some of these you can tell are more detailed than others. But what I really want to focus on with this part of the project is your skills in directing a model. That's something that most students and early photographers really struggle with, is how to communicate to them rather than just having them sit and blankly stare at the camera, how to give them direction to kind of pose exactly how you want. So my version of that is, here's the original artist on the left, and on the right is what the student did, and talking, to really think about what matches. And there's some things that we'll have control over, and there's some things that we're going to ignore. What I really want to focus on is the body posture, placement, body language type of things that you can give directions on. If you can find similar style clothing, great, but some of the examples are going to be just so wild that you'd never be able to match that. So focus on what we can control, which is like, in this case, the zoom of the lens is significantly different. The the cell phone feels much larger and at a bit different angle, and the way it overlaps with the face could be a little bit more perfect. I like that the student has a blank wall as the background. It would be great if there was more of a window showing. I love that the student shows a blue shirt that sort of matches the original blue shirt, and a bluish or dark pillow to kind of match that. We're not going to focus on body shape or size or skin color or hair color or anything like that. We're going to just choose a model that's available. If we are, for example, photographing with a different gendered model, this is not something that we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on what we can really control, given the availability that's probably limited in a 1 week project, or essentially less than a week project. It doesn't, there are things that do matter and things that don't. And what we can control is really the composition, and that's what we should be focusing on. So here is another version, and we could crop this to kind of match the square format of the original on the left. I think that the student tried to match the lighting and the dark background really well. The camera seems like it's maybe a little bit higher than the model in the right-hand one than in the original. But otherwise, I think matching the kind of messy hair and the leather jacket, the cigarette, those are all great ideas and great attempts. And I'm going to go through these rather quick, and I'll just focus on a few things that are off. But I think this one is very close. This one, the student clearly worked a lot to get things to match. I would say the depth of field is significant in the left one, so if we could have matched that, that would be great. A little bit more space on the left-hand side maybe would be great, but otherwise I think they've done a lot to get the hand placement as similar as possible. The camera angle is maybe a little bit different, but minor things. This one I think is pretty good, although the model on the right, the chin maybe there could be more of a gap between the chin and the device. But otherwise I think they've done a really good job of getting the material on top of the head and the phone in about the right place and slightly off to the right side. This one I think is really strong as well. The hair length, of course, is not something that we can control, so I think the idea of pushing that off to the side was really smart. The lighting is maybe a little bit more, what do I say, to the front of the model rather than to the back. But otherwise, I think they've done a great job to match as much as they can. This one was brilliant. The background matches very nicely. The pop thing coming out of the mouth the same way. The hand placement almost entirely the same. Lighting, I think, is pretty similar. This one as well. Maybe we could see a little bit more of the hands in the front of the model, but the body placement is almost identical. The sort of lean, the arch of the back. The head maybe is a little bit too tilted, but otherwise I think a very very close match. A lot of effort put in. This one, well, body placement on the bed is very off to the left instead of being more centered and facing to the right of the camera. There's no way we would match this room on the left in any way, shape, or form. So I think just having the model sitting on the bed, the fact that he's in a suit with a tie that even matches is great. I think we could see the feet more, and that would be helpful. But otherwise, a lot of details that have been kind of intentionally matched. This one, I swear, I couldn't remember which one was the original when I was putting these in the slideshow. The way that I figured it out was that it was a digital camera clearly on the right, and it was a film camera on the left. But the lighting is almost identical. The body placement and angle of the shoulders is great. The camera's held in almost the exact same spot. The tilt of the head is very similar. The hair takes up about the same space. So really great. Another one by this artist with the phones. I'm gonna kind of skip through, but I think you get the idea with these. This one's a diptych with the same person being eyes open versus closed. Crops pretty close. I think this student did a great job matching not just the lighting, the kind of pairing and close crop, but even the way I kind of feel from looking at the images. Another really great example. Not much that I can see that's significantly different. Maybe the lighting could be a little bit harder, or we could increase the contrast, but otherwise very similar. I'm going to skip this one. Those I think match really well. I see the direct connection to the original. Same with these. I think I've intentionally pulled some of the best work in here, so I don't have a lot to critique. Let's see. The only thing I see really significantly missing is perhaps the one on the right is a little bit less sharp. And there's no band around the wrist in the one on the right, and the bottle maybe could be filled a similar height. But yeah, you can tell the student really closely worked to match those. The lighting does isolate the model more on the left, but I think that's something that really would be hard to control, assuming that they're photographing this at home. So, there's a few things, but really great. This one I love. Light, angle of the head, almost everything very closely matches. Seeing the one on the right, I directly connect it to the one on the left, knowing that image from memory. I think the only thing I would avoid was that parking sign is distracting, but they got the floating of the, I assume, milk coming out of the bottle. Obviously, it's not going to be this perfect same way, but they froze the motion of that wonderfully. This one definitely needs a bit more contrast, but I think you get a similar look of the eye, the hair, the dark. It's not a leather jacket in the one on the right, but not everybody has the leather jacket available to them. So I think having black clothing was a very good choice. This one I see the connection, but I think that we should see a little bit more to see the arms and the knees like in the original. But aside from that, I think it's a really good match. The fact that there's a bed in the background is great. The room, of course, is never going to be the same. This is another one that was like such a close match that it amazed me. Student really went in to try and get as much matching, not just of the clothing and the body and the things hanging in the background and the warm color mood. This one's out of focus, so of course that's an issue. But aside from that, the placement of the lipstick kind of matches pretty well. I think that maybe the lighting was just a little too harsh, and that is why it looks almost bluish, and there's a hard shadow off the side of the nose here. But otherwise, pretty close. But that focus is really bothers me. Another one, I think there's a lot of things that match very closely. The lighting is the only thing that really seems a little bit off. That's not a warmer light like in the original, and it's not casting the shadow on the neck quite the same way. But otherwise, I think a lot of it matches really well. Again, a very close match, very close match. Even better match than the one we looked at before, I believe. This one, the style car is just not something you're going to find. So I think that this student put a lot of effort into kind of getting the same sort of feel out of it, and not being able to really control compositionally being exactly matching. I would say this one, the student might want to be a little bit more mindful of the photographer's intent for the image and the maybe historical background, but otherwise the kind of contrast seems to match, the composition seems to match. Like this one, very close, maybe a little bit different lighting would be good to more perfectly match, and being aware of distracting things in the background. Yeah, this one I think is pretty close. They've really worked with the studio lights to get the same red and blue glow. It's a different aspect ratio, so that's a little bit of an issue. And trying to get the light to kind of hit the model the same way is hard when your model's face and body shape is going to be totally different. So I think we should kind of not focus on that. I think the nose, the way the light highlights the nose, is very similar. The one thing I feel like is missing is this light collar around the neck would really pull it together. Another one that matches really well. Again, I love this one, and that it's a modern camera take on an old photo. This one, the student clearly tried to match clothing to the original as much as they could, getting a lot of the body posture pretty similar as well. I'm kind of losing my words here. This one, obviously, lighting is very different. So I think that's the most problematic thing. Composition could better match to not cut off the top of the head and include more down to the knees. But otherwise, I think they put in a strong attempt. Hot dogs would be great, but they at least have something in their hands that kind of gives a similar feel. Yeah, this one I think is a really great close match, getting the lighting, getting the door in about the same placement. Yeah. All right. So I hope that gives an idea of what students have done in the past. There's a different slideshow all about portrait photographers that you should go through, and that would be a great place to find an artist or particularly a photograph that you would like, although you are welcome to work with any other portraits, I should say, out there, as long as they are not just like let's say like a family portrait or senior yearbook feeling portrait. It's better if it's 1 to 2 people, and it's really better if it's cropped closer in most ways so that it's not like head to toe, so we can really focus more on the body language.